afternoon. Annie, how are you?
Good, thank you.
I'm happy to see you, Annie. Thanks for coming in today. And Ronnie, nice to see you. Thank you so much both for coming in today, and I just really appreciate it. And I know that it seems like a long haul so far, with different testings, and you've been here every step of the way, which has been so lovely, and I'm sure you find it comforting, and it comforts me too, just knowing that you have a really special bond. So what brings us here today is just to discuss some of the results that from the testing that we've been doing during the past few weeks. Okay, so from one of the tests, the MOCA, you did have strengths in various areas, and I know you're very well educated, and you've got a lot of smarts still really shining through. But as we age, we all kind of notice our memory's just not what it used to be. And unfortunately, in some people, it just starts becoming more of a challenge than with others. So maybe just at a more quickly of a rate. So what this test found was that one of your main difficulties is in word retrieval.
Right, because that has so much to do with everyday life.
I'm sure it seems like maybe a little silly to you right now.
Yeah.
To hear word retrieval and how that's the main deficit.
Because she said that she had to pick out like animals. I mean, we don't live on a zoo. Why is that relevant? That just, it seems a little silly to me.
And Ronnie, I have to agree with you 100%. I mean, these tests, they come up with really good results, but I think the process of the test can seem a little bit silly and not really applicable to everyday life. So believe me when I say I totally agree with you in naming cows and chickens and whatever other animals you had to name. It does seem a little silly.
Yes.
And I appreciate your honesty. And I think what's so important, and that you've really reminded me in this, Ronnie, in being so supportive and not being shy to speak your mind. And I think that's a wonderful thing. Because if we pretend like things are okay, and if we just kind of roll along and keep our mouths shut, then what good is that really doing? So I really want to thank you for speaking your mind. And I hope I can kind of explain to you why this test does serve some purpose. So yes, even though naming farm animals, for example, seems silly, I believe that those animals were selected for this test because it's just kind of everyday knowledge. So it just kind of showed that some things that we've learned as children, as we age, the hope is that we still remember those things. So even though it may not seem like the biggest deal in all of our day, it still does play a really big role in how we live our daily lives. Because if it's difficulty naming animals, it could be difficulty remembering the steps to our favorite recipe, or it could be difficulty in our morning routine, right? And I'm not saying that you have difficulty in these areas, but this is what can happen down the road.
I understand that.
Yeah. And Annie, am I making any type of sense to you? Sometimes I make sense in my mind, but I'm not sure how I come across to you guys. So
yeah, I guess I just don't understand the results. Like, is it gonna get better?
Well, the results from this test, and I went through it with a fine-tooth comb. It's going to be difficult to hear. Okay. So Annie, we found that you have dementia.
Dementia? Like Alzheimer's? I just don't know what to do.
I know this is huge news for both of you to hear. One thing I can offer right now is in saying that we've caught it in relatively early stages. So it's not like it's going to be an overnight switch where your life is going to be turned upside down. And I'm sure right in this very moment, I would imagine it somewhat feels like your life already has been turned upside down. But I think that once we start taking the proper steps to adapt your lifestyle together, that things may seem a little easier. I think this will be the most difficult time, is when first you'll hear the word dementia.
It's very difficult to hear.
Yeah. It's like a lot to take in.
I'm sure it is. It's a scary thing. And, you know, when I used to think about dementia, right away I would think about what we see in the movies and on TV shows and what we read in the newspapers. You know, you think of people just almost looking a little crazy, right? That's how it's portrayed in the media, and how they have to go straight to a home and they may feel isolated. And we hear about the care not being so good. But I think it's really important for all of us to learn together that that's just what's portrayed in the media. And there's a lot of wonderful resources and a lot of people that can really help make this as smooth a transition as possible for you, Annie, and for you, Ronnie. So at this moment, Annie, what is your biggest concern?
I'm just really scared because, you know, I cook every night and I clean the house and I keep everything good at home, and I don't know, like, I've always done that. We've been married for, what is it, 58 years now?
Yeah, I think so.
So I just don't know, like, will I forget to do that and then I won't be able to do anything? Like, he'll have to do it for me and it'll be pointless because that's what I always did.
So it sounds like you're worried that your routine will be changed at some point. And of course, we don't know when. And then it sounds like you're worried for your husband, because life as you knew it, as you know it, will change. And, you know, who's to say that Ronnie won't be able to kind of pick up the slack where it's left? And you've probably done quite a wonderful job in really showing him great ways to do things. And I think, you know, just from seeing your relationship, I mean, every time the two of you have come in to see me, yes, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a struggle to see these signs and now to finally see the diagnosis. But you know what I find so comforting? Your love is just, it's truly unconditional. And it's just a beautiful thing to see. You know, you come in, you're holding hands. The support that we have, that your wife has from you, is just beautiful. And I love to see it. You're very welcome. It's truly an inspiration. You know, like 58 years and the love is still there. It's wonderful. So I think that in all of this darkness, you know, you've got a really strong support. And I think that's pretty wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Ronnie, what is your biggest concern at this point?
I just, you know, I don't want things to get really bad really soon. And so I'm concerned with how we're going to move forward and what this is going to look like. And like Annie was saying, how I'm going to take over these roles that I've just never had to do really. Or even about her safety. I want her to be safe in our home. And, you know, I'm having a hard time picturing what this is going to look like.
Right, and that's totally understandable, because up until 5 minutes ago, you didn't think that you'd have to picture a new way of living.
Right.
So, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to offer some suggestions.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we'd be open to anything.
Okay, thank you. So, what's your biggest concern of the ones that you mentioned? Where would you like me to start?
I guess how we keep things as good as we can for as long as we can.
Okay, and I think that's a very valid concern. That's very overarching, right? That takes into consideration everything.
Right.
So I think the main the main point we need to realize and need to really make sure is that we have things in place, because like your concern, you want to know when this is going to turn worse, right? So we've noticed some little signs as we've been going along, but you'd like to know that you want to feel prepared for when things reach a certain point. So I appreciate you sharing your honesty and sharing your concern, and I think that from here on out, we're going to work on implementing strategies for around the home. And we could do our homework. I mean, we can go around to different homes, different facilities, and just kind of slowly get our feet wet, and you can see what you want. You can see where you get that. I mean, it's going to be a home. Yes, it will be different from the home that you've known, but my hope is that when you set foot into one of these facilities, that you'll kind of get that feeling of, yeah, you know, I think I could belong here. And it's just as important for you, Ronnie, to feel the feeling of, yeah, I think my little lady's going to do okay here. And I could picture myself coming here every day and having breakfast and having dinner, whatever you so choose as a couple. But I definitely think it's possible to find a place, as long as we stay open-minded. I think it's possible to find a place where you feel pretty comfortable with.
Okay, well, it's hard to look forward that far, or to imagine her not living with me in our home that we've shared since we got married. We haven't moved yet. And yeah, I think it's hard to picture that, but you're right, it probably would make sense to at least explore.
Thank you for being so open-minded. I know it's such a challenging time, but that makes the world of a difference. So both of you just acknowledging that, yeah, it's a good idea to just start thinking about things for when the time comes, and we'll be prepared.
Yeah.
Do either of you have any questions for me at this point? Anything I can clear up?
Not that I know.
Yeah, I think you've done, you've made this very difficult situation as good as you could.
Thank you, Ronnie. That means a lot to me. And I just can't express enough how much I appreciate your open-mindedness and your support and your strength as a couple. So please just continue coming, continue being as strong as you are as a couple, and never hesitate if you have questions, if you have concerns. I'm a phone call away. We set up an appointment. I really just want to stay on the same page and just stay as a solid team. Does that sound manageable?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, Annie, Ronnie, thank you both again so much for coming in today. You can make an appointment on the way out, and we'll be in touch.
Okay,
Sound good?
thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
I was like laughing. I
Is
was
this
like,
stop? This
I think
normal
if you
box?
just-
Click.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Oh,
No.
wait, did that do it?
Oh, it's still